You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. We'll talk about what we see at stores and what the future may hold for our industry.
Today, we're going to talk to you about how do you increase the likelihood of having an absolutely great NACS show. And when we set up this show, we were talking to Blake, the producer. He's done 450 of these podcasts with us. He's been to a couple NACS shows, asked us all kinds of questions. And then we just thought, he's asking some really good questions. Chrissy and I have been between us to about 40 plus NACS shows. And then we just said, okay, you're the guy with the questions. Why don't you just ask us and take over the show? So that said, Blake, take over the show.
I'm asking the hard-hitting questions now. So, all right, let's go with this year's first. What is the coolest thing that's going to happen at the NACS show this year? We got a keynote, a heavy metal band, a hip-hop band, half pipes. What's the cool thing? What can I not miss?
The general sessions.
That sounds so boring.
So we have some great speakers this year. I think people are really going to enjoy it. And our Ideas to Go program, which is always a fan favorite. Jeff and I hit some really awesome stores this year. Very food focused, very customer focused. I think on the last day, which is, the last day, the last morning, last day of the show, we're in Las Vegas, but I think people are really going to want to see what's in store for them on the last day general session. We've got two pretty well-known celebrity chefs who are going to take over the stage.
Oh yeah, I heard about this.
But the day before, they're also going to shop the expo for ingredients because they're going to create a dish that you might want to try to replicate in a C-store. And then they're going to give a little demonstration on what they found and show us how to cook it.
So she says general sessions, Jeff. What do you say?
Well, we're both involved with those. So certainly it's, and the announcement just came out today with a couple of the general session speakers. So it's top of mind. And for those who have never been to the NACS show, we'll just kind of set up just like, or irregularly, and you may not really think what it involves. There's really a couple elements. There's the whole education element. So there's education sessions. There's about 50 of them. And each of them average about 250 people per education session. So when you think about an education session of 250 people, for a lot of conferences, that's the big room. That's the big session. So there's an enormous amount of thirst to learn new things in all these education sessions that are designed by retailers. So they're going to be of interest to retailers. Second thing is we have networking opportunities. You have them between sessions. You have them at the end of the first day with a kickoff party and all that. That's a chance to meet people. And whether it's old friends or just meeting people, go to those things, look at badges, pass out business cards. It's a sharing industry. So find those moments to connect with people because we've all been to conferences where you kind of walk around the back of the room a couple times at a reception. Everybody's too busy with their own clique. And then it's like, okay, doesn't feel right for me. That's not the vibe of the NACS show. The NACS show is like, hey, what are you doing? Come on over here. Then there's the general sessions, as Chrissy mentioned. And the theme of the NACS show this year is We Are Convenience. Now, We Are Convenience means whatever you want it to mean, because convenience is defined by the customer. And the general sessions are all going to focus on customer experience. And customer experience is all about, if you want to narrow it down, value and vibe. So we visited disco bathrooms for Ideas to Go. We visited places that had amazing lobster rolls and dog parks and all these things. It's a showcase of sharing ideas. So that's how you learn and how you set up. Retailers really, C-stores, what they really do is they solve problems. What the NACS show does is it solves retailers' problems. So think about any problem you have. I need this new product. I need to connect with somebody. I need a new idea. The NACS show will solve your problem, so plan appropriately. And I haven't even started talking about the expo, but I will pause right there.
So I should bring my problems to the NACS show?
Problems welcome. Problems solved.
Just for you, Blake.
Yes.
All right.
It's going to be like Lucy from Peanuts. It's going to be a nickel. Bring your problems. We will solve them.
I was thinking of What About Bob? But so listen, in New York City, there used to be a club called CBGB's, and it's like where bands would get discovered and stuff. And I don't know if they were really discovered there, but like the Ramones or whoever it was back in the day. So who are some people or brands or things that have been discovered at the NACS show? Because I've heard rumors. I don't know if I'm allowed to name brands, but you always tell me, because I got this super access, go check out these new fill in the blank, chips, drinks, whatever it is. So what are some like people that walked in, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, green people, and they walked out with that big order, that big idea, whatever it is? And who should I pick on? Well, Jeff, you just talk for forever, so Chrissy, you're up.
Good point.
There was a wave of energy drinks coming through the channel, and the reason that I know this is because I used to have a sample of probably 50 different energy drinks, anything from cereal flavored to a brand that sported like Hulk Hogan or something like that. Over time, those energy drinks exploded in the heat and the oldness of just sitting there for over a decade. So I had to throw them all away. But
hold on. But Gatorade's been around for forever.
Okay, well, we're talking about like energy drinks, like the ones that you know of today when you think of energy drinks, like Monster, Red Bull.
Monster, okay.
Those Rockstar, like those types of energy drinks when they came into the market. Some of them have stayed. I'd say a lot of them did not make it. So there are, for whatever reason, I don't know. But there's a few that stick out that I think probably exhibited for the first time at the NACS show and are still exhibiting today. And by exhibiting at the NACS show, I mean over 10 years ago. So now they were in little 10 by 10s with hardly anything going on. And now they're in some of the biggest booths that you can actually purchase at the NACS show.
What do they do? What do they do to make it to get attention? Do you remember?
They came to the NACS show, number one, which is the excellent audience. This is an immediate consumption industry. And so the cooler doors at convenience stores are, prime real estate. There's no other channel in retail that does packaged beverages like us.
So you think it was like just their booth was cool?
Their booth was cool. I think they had a good product. I think they made the right connections, the right contacts. I think they, were also didn't just come to the NACS show and then call it a day. I think they stayed engaged with NACS and saw the potential for, in order to get the most out of this industry, in order to get in front of the most people possible so I can, grow my brand and my product, they needed to be more engaged with NACS other than just the NACS show. So I think they took advantage of all that NACS has to them.
So Jeff,
Blake,
well,
I got a question for you.
Right.
What does CBGB stand for? And I didn't look at Wikipedia.
I thought that was in LA.
CBG. No, it used to be in was it South Manhattan or something?
Oh, it was in the Village. Yeah, East Village.
CBG. No, I don't know.
Country, bluegrass, and blues.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then they kind of didn't do well, and then the punks said, "Hey, can we play here for $50?" And it's like, yes. And then all of a sudden, that took off.
There you go.
Speaking of music and speaking of energy drinks, Monster. I remember the first time Monster was there, and they had Alice Cooper in the booth.
Nice.
And I talked to somebody a little bit more recent, a little younger than me, and I mentioned that Alice Cooper was in the Monster booth the first time they exhibited. Do you know what she asked me? Who's she? So kind of showed my age right there. Alice Cooper is a man. It is a band.
Alice.
But Alice, yes.
Who the hell?
But
So Jeff, what's what's somebody that you saw that you can say, I knew them when? Not energy drinks. You can take a minute.
I think it's I think one of the most fun parts of the walk the entire expo, because you really will find things that you didn't, even the problems you didn't know you had, you will be solving. So walk around, have a chance to meet with customer reps in some of the booths that you carry their products, see what's going on, see what might be coming down the road. But one of the areas that we've tried to open up because the NACS show is so popular, we have a waiting list If you're an exhibitor, no, we're sold out. I'm sorry. And the idea behind the waiting list, by the way, is we could take more money, we could make the show bigger, but if we do that, we lose booth density, and we want to make sure the exhibitors have as great a show as the retailers do, and they have a chance to meet as many people. But we have a new exhibitor area, and what that does is it allows you to kind of see some trends that may be on the periphery of the convenience industry. So you'll see all the trends you need to see about things going on in the industry. And then that area might give you a little look outside of the core part of our industry. You might see more healthier options there or things like that. So one of the cool things is when we're allowed outside of our, we're kind of busy with other things, but when we have a chance on maybe that last day or some hour here or there, and you talk to the people in the new exhibitor area, the first thing they said is, I had no idea. Because we always walk around, and all NACS staff does this. And we ask, whether it's your retailer, whether you're a supplier, how was your show? And we really love hearing when they say it's awesome. We also listen when you say it wasn't good and take back those things. But when you talk to people in the new exhibitor area, they're absolutely blown away. They're like, I had no idea that there were this many retailers this interested in finding something new to deliver to their customers. And that's one of the cooler experiences.
So in the new exhibitor, you guys have that whole waiting list and stuff, like you said. And you guys, as I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, you what I'm looking for, curate who gets to get into that, right?
Yes and no.
Yeah. Yeah, it's based on a couple things, but among them is when you signed up, and unfortunately, after it's sold out, then the waiting list starts to grow, So that means that Chicago next year, plan for that. But thinking about retailers and what retailers need to do, it's starting to get online and look at those exhibitors. Actually, even before that, walk around your stores, look at them and say, I would be happier if my stores had this or my stores did this, and kind of do that what if scenario even before you get to problems. And then you'll probably say, oh, that's something I want to think about. And that'll get you thinking for which education sessions might you want to hone in on. What type of exhibitors do you want to talk to kind of look at some of those things? You have the immediate problems, and then you have the, boy, I wish we really did this. Because you'll see products, you'll see solutions, you'll see experts, and you'll see, I think more than anybody else, when we look at surveys and when we ask people, what do you want the NACS show to deliver? They say, I want to see the future. So our goal is we want people to see the future because the future's coming, and it's coming fast. It's going to be in Las Vegas. I should be a salesman.
You should work at NACS. So
yeah, I should.
So, and I'm going to go to Chrissy on this, but I will talk about something that happened to me for the people that, and I have no real dog in this hunt, but I did go. I can't remember if we were back in the studio or if we were in an event, but either way, in this area, I've heard of the Sheets place, and I just bumped into Joe Sheets when we were recording. But I'm going somewhere with this is, I actually said something like, "Oh, I went to the one off Route 11 in such and such," and at the time I was vegetarian vegan because I was just playing with it, and I said, "You guys had all kinds of stuff," thinking I'm just making pleasant conversation at this point. I ended up talking to Joe Sheets for like 25 minutes, and he was asking me questions about my experience. So both either first timers or old timers, it seems like, and I work in a lot of different industries, but you guys do have somewhat of a sharing. Like, I think you could, if you saw him and he wasn't in too much of a rush, you could, poor Joe, he's going to get mobbed now. But like, if you see some big time rock star, you can kind of go and talk to him, or am I wrong, Chrissy?
You can talk to him.
Yes,
like
and
you said,
for those,
you alluded to it, like it's a very sharing industry, and all ideas are on the table. And if someone's doing something cool, someone else wants to know about it. How can they adopt it? How can they make it their own? It's really fun. And the cool thing about this show is when you think about how many retailers are there, let's just like hypothetically say there's 7,000 to 8,000 retailers at this show. And of those retailers, they may have, X amount of, let's just say like over 100,000 stores in the C-store community are represented. And we know that there's about 152,000 in our universe of C-stores in the U.S. A lot of them are single store operators, like over 60%. So if you're coming to the NACS show and you're seeing everything that's new and you're seeing what's coming, you really do have a leg up on competition, for sure, to bring that into your space, no matter what your company size is, no matter what your store count is. You're seeing what's new, you're seeing what's coming.
And that's definitely a huge part of the equation. But the other part that every retailer will talk about is, what do you want to be known for? What do you want to be famous for? And Sheetz has a vibe. They have a brand. When you hear Sheetz, you know what they offer. When you hear about Casey's, you know it's going to be about pizza. When you hear somebody else, you know it's going to be fried chicken. So the idea is, how do you take back the ideas that fit your brand, that fit your vibe? Because stores sell an awful lot of the same products, and not just convenience stores, but all other channels, because everybody sells convenience on some level. So what the NACS show allows you to do is just kind of also sets up or possibly rewires how do you think, because right after the NACS show, you have a 2-ish months till 2025, till new budgets kick in for a lot of people. So it gives you a chance to kind of strategically plan and say, hey, we can adjust right now. And here's what that's what a lot of members tell us, that it's a perfect timing, because then they go on a strategic retreat, and then they're set up for the following year. And Chrissy, I know you have all of a sudden, I'm interviewing again. You have an article coming out in NACS Magazine where you asked, share your first timer experiences.
And what do we get?
Well,
or we haven't.
No, that wasn't the article. It was how to maximize the most out of the NACS show. So basically
right,
what we're
for
talking
a
about
first
right
timer.
But
Yes.
It was fun because a couple of years ago we did a podcast with Jeff Miller, who was a former chairman of NACS, and I thought that some of the comments that he made they're very viable and relevant today. We resurfaced some of that stuff. We resurfaced some comments that folks made while we were filming Ideas to Go about, just how much given that the time frame for having the show in October is about the same time that you're putting together marketing plans for the next year. It's very it's in a good spot to look at what's going on and look at where you want to make investments for the next year based on what you're seeing at the NACS show, where the industry's heading, trends. Do you have equipment needs? Are you looking into car wash? Like all kinds of stuff. So it is, it's obviously walk around, get some chicken, get some candy, bring it home to the kids. But the reality is that a lot of folks are looking at how what they're seeing at the NACS show is going to play out in their strategic plans for the following year.
All right, so you're walking around, and I remember when we first started making Convenience Matters, you told me something about you guys are somewhat responsible for, maybe not you guys, but the bananas that I saw in my local C-store, right? So it's a few $1,000 to go to the NACS show, especially if you're flying, getting a hotel room anywhere near to the place. So, but with that said, any idea what one good idea, I'm going to put bananas out, how much would that cover the cost? Or not even the cost, but what is one cool idea worth? Is there any metric on that? We started putting bananas out and our revenue tripled, and now I can buy that.
I mean, if anyone's listening to this, I would love to know the answer. Email one of us and let us know. I think that would be super interesting to find out, because I don't know what someone's looking at. I in the first few years that I walked the show, it was all the fun merchandise and the food and all that good stuff. And then I walked around with a retailer and he was looking for shelving and light fixtures. that wasn't on my radar.
But I gotta say, they have light up shelves now and they look really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, because that's Chrissy. talk about the cool new products area, because you're actually even more familiar than I am. But that's what we notice there is we do the top 10. And the top 10 is not like, oh, here's a new pickle flavored soda or something like that. It's the blocking and tackling, and it's the shelving units. And that's what people use in a lot of cases to kind of sort out what they're going to find.
I was in one of those type of C stores, because I know we're supposed to name names, but where you order on a computer screen and then you have to wait for your sandwich to be ready. And I swear, in my local place, I look at the candy aisle now because it's directly behind, and the candy looks so pretty. I don't even like candy. But I bought candy for my niece because it was like, oh, look at that. How pretty is that? So that's where I say, like, what's one idea worth? Whenever I used to go to conferences in the production business, we were looking for one new client. If we got 10, great. One new client would pay for the whole event and more. So I don't know.
Well, simple math, factoring in the registration, which is it's still a factor, but the bigger expenses are hotel and airline. Let's just say it's $2,000 a person.
Yeah.
365 days in a year. That means if you can increase your profits by $7 per day, it was a trip well spent.
Right, but that keeps going and going for the year. And if you never go again, which I should never say that, I know, but if you went one time and got one idea that gave you $7 a day,
your payoff would be 1 year, and then after that, it's pure profit.
Pure profit.
Yes.
So that's my fear of missing out, and like, why wouldn't you go? Now I sound like the salesman.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. Well, you use AI. I did an intro. You took AI and you unjeffified it. What was your intro going to be?
Oh, I had something to the extent. Let me see here. I have it here. Today we're going to explore how you can ensure that you get the most value and the must attend event and avoid the regret of not being part of something incredible.
Should we put?
But that would be
in a world without the NACS Show.
Yes, you would be in big trouble. But I gotta go back to that because I think it is interesting that if the other thing that I found, I always give my wife. She works at a news agency, and sometimes they stay out till 3 a.m. But I have found a lot of times that it might be not necessarily, and the expo's great, but you're not in the expo and you see something, but you're talking to somebody on the other side of the country who decided to do this wacky little thing, and you go, man, I could do that, and you're not competitors. Mm-hmm. Like I moved the candy to here, and I put the thing to here, and all of a sudden now my chip sales have tripled. When do you hear stories of that? Of like, when do the where do people get a lot of the ideas? Sure, the expo floor is great. But I would think other competitors, these are guys that are down in the trenches.
Yeah. So here's something that I didn't put in the article that's coming out, but it was something that Jeff did mention in that podcast a couple of years ago, was that, he was out sitting at the bar having a cocktail, whatever, and he got talking to
This is Jeff Miller.
He was talking, not you. Okay. So he was talking to money, and he was thinking about, I don't remember exactly what it was. Let's just say he was thinking about putting in some new equipment in his store. And then he started going through it with the friend who he was talking to, who's like, you know what, I was thinking about doing the same thing. And by the time they got to the end of the conversation, they both realized that they're not going to do it. So for whatever reason, right? So, there's those kind of things that can happen. Is, you might be in the process of contemplating something, and when you get into an environment like the NACS Show where you can see other retailers in mass and kind of bounce ideas off of others,
right? And don't do that.
Or they could say, go for it. It's the best thing I ever did. They could say, you know what, why don't you check out XYZ?
I never thought of that. So I was thinking of looking for the profit, but you could also avoid a pitfall.
Yeah.
I put those lights in. They were totally worthless. No one cared.
Are you going to talk more about candy? Because for somebody who doesn't like candy, you sure do talk about it.
But it is neat the way it's lit up.
Yeah.
I feel like in the convenience stores that I see, only a lot of because I work on this show, but the food has gotten so much better in convenience stores. Like better than I think you call them QSRs, right?
Yeah, like the McDonald's and the Burger Kings of the world. Those are cute.
Don't get me wrong, a McDonald's quarter pounder is still delicious, but I feel like you can go into some of those other places multiple times a week and get a salad and a hoagie or something. So now I'm just rambling about how I like.
Well, I'll tell you what the QSR industry does superbly at is they know what they're known for, right? Like when I say McDonald's, you'll probably say Big Mac. And if I say Roy Rogers, you'll say chicken. They are known for what they sell. And that's one of the things that Jeff kind of alluded to, is like thinking about, as a C-store offering food, what do you want to be known for? And, walk the food service section of the NACS show. There's bound to be somebody who's going to help you get there.
All right, we're at 25 minutes.
Yeah,
so now I'm giving myself the cane. What'd I miss? Anything else? In closing, Jeff? Scare these people. Come on, make them fear of missing out.
The FOMO?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give some advice for those already attending, and then I'm gonna tell you why you need to go. So the advice I would have, and we hear this over
in 20
and over.
seconds.
Okay. Think of the show as a continuum and as a process, and how are you gonna address this? How are you gonna solve a problem? So if you have a team, spread out. Don't see things together, and then after the next to last day of the expo, get together and decide what you're going to visit that last day, and do it as a team and kind of vet things. So alone and then together, you're going to get a lot farther.
Time's up. Now, Chrissy, your turn.
She can talk about why you should go.
While you're there, if there's anything you need, the NACS staff is very visible. There will probably be upwards of 60 of us. We have our name badges. They all look the same. And ask one of us. Just grab us. Ask us a question. We will help.
With time to spare. So when is the next show? October
7th to the 10th.
7th to the 10th. And the big party's when?
The big party is every day.
When is it?
When's the best?
Well, they had the kickoff party. That starts on October 7th. So, and it ends on the 10th, and there's plenty to see and do in between. Blake, do you want to take us home here?
I will. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you at the NACS show. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Chrissy. And thank you for listening to Convenience Matters. Bye.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.